Everyone, hope you had a good half term and you managed to get some rest and a break from studying. We are moving on today to look at different types of conservatism. So before half term, as I'm sure you remember, we started the core values of conservatism. Now we're looking at the different strands and to look at some of the similarities and differences between the different strands. So these are the types of conservatism that you need to know about. The first one is traditional conservatives. This is generally associated with a commitment to hierarchic and paternalistic values. So they're concepts that we looked at already before half term. So remember, paternalism is that idea associated with the concept noblesse oblige, where the rich in society, those at the top of society, have an obligation to support the less fortunate. And obviously that leads to sort of a hierarchical structure in society with those at the top caring for those at the bottom. Similar to traditional conservatism, you have one nation conservatism, and this is essentially an update of the traditional conservative views in response to the emergence of capitalism. So hopefully when you start looking at this, you'll see that there's lots of similarities between these two, and their ideas on the economy slightly differ. And the most contrasting strand is the New Right strand. This is the marriage of neoliberal and neoconservatives ideas. So neoliberal ideas are principally concerned with free market economics, laissez-faire capitalism, and atomistic individualism. So that promotion of the individual above others. Kind of linked to what we did with liberalism when we looked at egotistical individualism and how that would eventually lead to everybody benefiting anyway. So neoliberalism married with neoconservatism, and neoconservatism is principally concerned with the fear of social fragmentation. They're very tough on law and order and public morality. So it's really about looking at society and how we all get along with each other. It's the promotion of social solidarity, something that unites all of us together, and making sure that morality is instilled. So trying to promote, family values and trying to, I guess, get rid of this idea that the state is too soft on people that commit crimes and, introducing harsher prison sentences and things like that. So the New Right, hopefully, as you can already see, is going to be quite different to the traditional conservative approach. Once you've looked at all three of these, we're going to look at the contrast within the New Right itself. So your main task, what you need to do is read the information from the online textbook. I've sent you the link again in the email, and the photos that I've sent from the smaller textbook that you will eventually receive when we get back to school. Use both of those resources to complete the summary sheets for each strand of conservatism. I have split up the New Right conservatism simply because the two strands are quite different. So for the core ideas section of the document, what you need to do is bullet point their ideas. So what are the core ideas of a traditional conservative? Once you've done that, at the end, colour code each of those ideas according to what areas they relate to. So if you've got a core idea about the economy, perhaps colour it in blue, for society, green, etc., etc. Make sure you fill out a key as well so you know what each of the colours represent when you come to revise. The reason why I've given you links to two textbooks is because, unfortunately, for some reason, there isn't one brilliant textbook that has everything you need to know in it. It's all in different places. So we do have to use both of these resources. And obviously, you can use the pre-truth politics stuff as well if you want to. So contradictions within New Right conservatism. So hopefully now you've completed all of those tables. You've got nice summaries of each of the different strands. I just want to pick apart the New Right conservatism strand a little bit more because there are tensions within this strand, which makes it interesting. So firstly, neoliberals, they are keen to roll back the state. So remember, that's withdrawing the state from our lives. And you can see this through when Thatcher privatised services, she withdrew the state's responsibility for key services and placed it into the hands of private companies. On the other hand, neoconservatives kind of want to roll the state forward. So Thatcher's restrictions on trade unions and local authorities, that was Thatcher having or imposing the state in areas that perhaps others would say it has no business. So there's a contradiction here about whether there's a rolling back the state or rolling forward of the state. Secondly, we can say that neoliberals advance individual liberty. So things like income tax cuts, especially for higher earners, because obviously if you're taxed heavily, it prevents you from being free because you can't use your money to do as you please. It's being used for other purposes that you have no control over. Whereas neoconservatives arguably want to restrict liberty. They are in favour of extending police powers to maintain social order, so giving police more powers to do things like stop and search, higher powers of arrest. So we can see here, on the one hand, they're trying to advance our liberty, but also restrict it at the same time. Neoliberals also are relaxed about immigration, because the neoliberal strand argues that immigration is good because it happens due to free markets and free trade. If you think about people that come to the UK, they often come to work because they want to, perhaps earn more money. They perhaps can see job opportunities in the UK that they haven't seen in other countries. So it's good because it leads to competition, and that leads to the economy flourishing. On the other hand, neoconservatives are wary of immigration. Quite famously, Margaret Thatcher described immigrants in a really negative way. She said they swamped traditional communities, and by traditional communities, she meant obviously white British communities. So that was a really negative spin on how, conservatives approached immigration. And that's because neoconservatives think that lots of immigration to the UK will break up and lead to the breakdown of a community. And if you have a breakdown of a community, it can lead to more disorder. Neoliberals are keen to minimise government spending because they're very similar in the liberal approach that we've looked at before, because they think actually the market should be left alone, have a free market, laissez-faire system, and those principles of Adam Smith, the invisible hand, actually guiding the economy to success. Whereas neoconservatives are keen to increase government spending to strengthen the nation's profile. So spending on things like the nuclear weapons program, called Trident, spending on the Falkland Islands. So when Thatcher was in power, there was the Falkland conflict. And spending in these areas helps to strengthen the profile of the United Kingdom, and to really give it a place in the world stage. So you can see from looking at just this one strand of conservatism, there are some contradictions within it. And that will make your essays more interesting. Obviously, you can compare the New Right perspective overall to the traditional and the One Nation conservative perspective. But for a more nuanced essay, you might want to compare within the New Right perspective the two strands. That's all for today. If you could just send over those summaries of each of the strands, that would be brilliant. Any problems, let me know. Take care. Bye.